why would I get married? I really can't think of any real good reasons to get married.
Now, you could love somebody, and, I mean, you could love them to death, but if you get married to them, that means you got to start paying for them. First thing, if you're going to pay, I mean, if you're going to marry somebody, you got to pay for them, you got to pay for you got to pay to eat, you got to pay to sleep, you got to pay for food. Then, if kids come up, you got to pay for kids' food, you got to pay for them, you got to pay for more clothes.
It's a very difficult question whether or not one should get married. A lot of our friends lived together for a while. And when they did get married, it sort of changed what they had. They took each other for granted.
Yeah, but there's something about being together permanently that demands a commitment, and I don't think it's strong enough any other way except being legally married.
Yet, despite the doubts, the idea of marriage is so much a part of our culture that over 90% of all Americans do get married at least once.
For sure I'll get married, because I don't want to be different from everybody else.
We've been taught that getting married is a part of growing up. So some people just assume that by the time we reach a certain age, we should be married.
We should get married, Dad. It's really great. It's so terrific.
That pressure for marriage from friends, relatives, and the very structure of our society has created a kind of myth about marriage, a mistaken notion by some that getting married solves all our personal problems.
I want a wife because I need a wife, really. You know, I need someone to take care of me because I'm very rowdy and I usually get carried away a lot of times with myself and get in trouble, you know, and so like I need someone, you know, more or less calm me down and say, hey, well, you know, you do this and take care of yourself and, you know, put me in line. You know, if I don't do that, then I'm not going to be able to make it, you know.
Others marry because they are insecure.
I don't need anybody else. I feel secure with him. Why should I bother with anybody else when I have him?
My wife and I, we have each other now. And I love her very much, and that's all I really need.
And if the timing is wrong, even a good reason for marriage can become bad.
Don't mind telling you. We were going to get married anyway, but she got pregnant, so we got married a little sooner. It doesn't matter, because we're in love.
Is this the right thing to do?
Still others enter marriage with unrealistic notions of romance.
Because Bill and I love each other. We want to be together. I mean, he doesn't have a job, and I'm still in school, but it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, since we're in love, nothing else matters.
We've learned to think that love is the only reason to get married. And in today's world, it is a most vital ingredient for matrimony. But it wasn't always that way. In other times, people married less for love than for practical reasons. Reasons such as raising children who could help work the farms and then could support parents in their old age. Back when women were expected to be wives and mothers and little else, they either found a man to marry or were forced to live a kind of half-life as a spinster. To America's early settlers, being married meant having a partner who could help in the job of survival. And for most people, marriage was the only way they could satisfy their normal sexual desires. So if the dreams of those couples didn't always work out, and if they no longer felt they loved each other, it was still usually in each one's best interest to stay married. Yesterday's lifestyles don't work in today's world. Our whole economy has changed. With gadgets, appliances, and convenience foods, a single person can easily tend to all household chores without help. sexual behavior are far less restrictive.
So what's happening after the party?
Last week you're going dancing.
Pensions, insurance, and Social Security give support in old age that children once provided. Women can get good jobs.
Bring that file, the county file on public works, please.
And even in sports, the rigid sex roles that once prevailed are becoming obsolete. So people are more free to do as they wish, regardless of gender. With those practical reasons for marriage no longer so important, there is one justification for marriage that still makes sense today. Most of us still need one person with whom we can trust and share our lives.
Well, I think first of all, she's my best friend, and we trust each other, we support each other, and we understand each other. Most of all, I guess we want to make the commitment.
I agree with all that. I think there's such a commitment to getting married that can't be expressed any other way. But I think that most important of all, we're in love.
Right.
Love. The word describes such a range of emotions and has so many meanings that the dictionary has more than a dozen definitions.
I love her.
Love, noun. A strong, usually passionate affection of one person for another, based in part on sexual attraction. The object of such liking. A deep and tender feeling of affection for, or attachment or devotion to, a person or persons. To delight in, take pleasure from. An expression of one's love or affection. To feel the emotion of love, be in love.
Yet not one of those dictionary definitions really describes the bond of trust, friendship, respect, and caring that is at the heart of every good marriage. Which leads to the next question. What are the good reasons for getting married?
Why does one get married? I think one gets married for an sexual attraction, but why does one stay married is a matter of sharing one's possessions, one's family life, one's home. It's not eating alone at night.
A big part of it for me is having somebody I can absolutely trust. Not only with money or things like that, I mean with feelings, deep feelings. Feelings so deep sometimes you can't even think to yourself about them. For me to be able to trust her with those feelings makes me feel that marriage is right.
To me, marriage is having friends, a lifelong companion. Once you get out there on your own, you realize that it's really a very lonely world.
The main thing is the togetherness. It means companionship, love, sharing the good times, bad times. You've got ups and downs. You need someone. Everyone needs someone to talk to, smile with, cry with. It's having one person in the whole world for whom I care more than anyone else, and knowing that he feels the same way about me.
I love you.
I love you too.
Let's get married.
Okay.
When couples think they're in love because they feel a strong sexual attraction and the thrill of romance, they often decide to get married. That may be why almost 40% of all American marriages end in divorce.
It's really very difficult for me to handle this over the phone. Why don't you call my secretary and we'll make an appointment for the beginning of the week? Fine. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I think the expectations that people have when they go into marriage are often very unrealistic. To simplify what's really a very complicated and constantly shifting human interaction, I'd say that success in marriage depends on three things: whom you marry, when you marry, and perhaps most important, your reason for getting married.
In theory, anyone of the opposite sex who is not directly related and is over the age of consent is a potential mate.
Why don't you like to go out like this? It's so old.
But successful marriages are most likely to occur among people who are similar. Similar in things like their age, their ethnic and racial background, their level of education, their social class, and their religious outlook.
People who feel they are equal usually make the best partners. It's that simple.
Well, so how'd you date go with David last night? Well, I said yes. I'm being married. I am so excited. I think that little thing got in the way, like, moodiness and being moody and us having different cultural backgrounds. Seems like that's what it does me. Aren't we going to the Anderson's party?
Nah,
You said you wanted to go.
I'm too tired.
That's okay. You're too tired. We don't have to. David, you forgot the toothpaste again. Hang up your clothes. Don't leave them for me.
But after the wedding, when the romance cools a bit, differences in basic attitudes and values can cause so much friction that the marriage eventually is torn apart.
Okay.
I don't know why I got married in such a hurry. Maybe it's because she laughed at all my jokes. The stick wasn't funny.
It isn't anything like I thought it would be. Seems like it should be a give and take process. Seems like he's doing all the taking, I'm doing all the giving.
If men and women would just take a little time to know each other and find out if they really want the same things out of marriage, the divorce rate would sink like a rock.
Experts say there are 3 basic styles of marriage, and all the others are variations. The most common used to be the traditional marriage, in which the wife devotes her life to her husband.
Thank you, dear.
The companionate style of marriage is where the wife has some interest of her own and also helps her husband in his work.
What are you doing today?
I'm playing tennis with your new college wife.
The third style is the egalitarian, or equal marriage, in which both mates share the money earning and household duties, so each is free to grow and develop as an individual.
Yeah, I'm free.
If one spouse insists on a traditional type marriage and the other wants a more equal relationship, both folks are headed for trouble. I see that kind of thing happen all the time. It simply appalls me how few couples take the time before the wedding to discuss the kind of roles they'll play after they're married. Maybe it all boils down to really understanding yourself before making a commitment to someone else.
Yet even with the best reasons for marriage, no couple just lives happily ever after. As things like jobs, health, and values change, the marriage must change too.
A year ago, I would have never dreamed that this would be happening. But I really like where we're at. We get along well together. And it feels good being together. It feels right getting rid of the family. I mean, we do have arguments and have had fights. But I've never been worried that he would pack up and leave. I think we want the same things out of life. And I understand myself well enough now to know that I could never be as happy living alone as I am living with him, being married.
Problems in marriage usually begin long before the wedding, because the couple decided to get married for reasons that were weak or selfish. Perhaps they wanted to get away from a bad situation, or they thought that being married would give them status or security they couldn't find on their own. A good marriage makes life more meaningful, but a marriage that's full of bitterness and fighting can make living miserable. And remaining single is now considered a perfectly acceptable lifestyle. So when a couple feels that getting married will be the right decision for them, their chances for success can be greatly improved by examining their reasons before instead of after taking the vows.